It's funny. I keep hearing terms like the adversary. What does it mean? Well, people think it's like pissing against the wind and trying not to get wet. How about just simply asking questions? There are a lot of questions I can ask. For instance, I always ask questions. If I don't ask questions and I present a situation that you would have to ask a question. For instance, when I talk about my video series about merit and credit, people getting merit in their fictitious accounts, magical names, usernames, personas. One of the funny things are when people get this big popularity of posts and videos and what have you, and they're not really sharing who they really are because they're not who they say they are. Everybody has their reasons to hide. Being a public figure, as public as I can be, I'm out in public. I'm out in the flea markets. I'm out promoting my organization. I'm doing lectures at the libraries and what have you. And so for me, it's me. Win or lose, fail or pass, however you want to see it. But when someone shows up and they're Joe Schmo and they're getting a big applause, so people like the antics of this person, people like this role that they're playing, as much as I could criticize, put down, belittle, or even demean, or just simply point out the obvious of that person's character, being that they're a persona, not a real person, because they're not really sharing what they are about. Like I said before in my other videos, if your foundation is false, the message will be false, no matter how good it sounds, the way I see it. And whether or not you agree with my opinion, it's still my opinion. Very little to argue with. And so when I see people out there who give the credit or the merit to somebody who is fictitious, my criticism is you don't question the people you appreciate. You might agree full-heartedly, but if the person's name is fictitious, then you might as well give Mickey Mouse credit and merit for what Mickey Mouse says and does, or any other character out there. That's the whole point. You don't question. And even with a role of adversary, you don't question. So my thinking to you is, what paradigm are you in if you're not questioning? I understand people think they're friends with other people online. There are no friends on people online. Bottom line. You might think that, you may say that, but you'd be surprised what a person's real life is away from the camera, or the forums, or the boards. Because anybody and everybody can go off and live and act the way they want here. And that's the problem. Now you can give credit to somebody who you think is super awesome, but as a former stagehand who works with celebrities, I can assure you the people you admire the most after meeting them are the least people you want to meet again. Just a rule of thumb. I'm not saying all of them, but I've met a lot of celebrities, and only one celebrity I actually broke the code of talking to talent, and irony was it wasn't someone common or popular in that respect of celebrityism, rock concert performer or country performer. I actually had a picture with Ben Stein. I happen to like the guy. But the people who you overlook, for instance, I worked with Styx and Leonard Skinner, and I had a better appreciation for Leonard Skinner over Styx. Leonard Skinner didn't even look at us, didn't even talk to us, They just did their thing and they left. Styx stayed after the performance, thanked us for our work, handed us t-shirts from last year and last year's backstage pass as a token of thanks, and what we call swag. So the people you sometimes overlook like that are the most appreciative of things. So you'd be surprised, and I think that's the whole thing, is being surprised at both ends. The people you appreciate the most are the biggest armpit, and the people who you least expected are the most gracious. Not saying this is going to happen in the left-hand path, but that was my living example. This is what I've seen in real life. And yes, Ben Stein was actually a cool guy to meet, so he was one-on-one for someone I liked, and actually someone who's genuine. And I think that's the thing. When we deal with people with personas, alter egos, monikers, if you don't know who they really are, and they have not full disclosure as to who and what they really are about, then are you living the dream of their illusion that they're projecting? Are you questioning it? There's always been a joke about cleaning up on aisle 9, for instance, with a particular person. And the funny thing is, this person's been patted in the back, attaboy, and from what I've seen this past year alone, every hand that patted the back has now been a hand bit. That name that has been branded is no longer a brand. It's no longer a name that can be used, because it's been now deleted. It's been now no longer allowed to be used in the debates or forums that this person made their notoriety in. So what happens? So much for your branding. But the people who give that person the merit, and not just that one person, as I said, it's not the person that's necessarily my focal point, it's the fan club behind it. If you don't give that particular person the same courtesy of questioning as you do with any other person, then where do you stand? If I was to be talking with someone named Magic Bear, eventually I like to know who Magic Bear really is before I stop wasting my time with them, and then I move on. I have another video about meeting the Anon. I had a guy named Wise Thrice, and he's actually a druid priest, and or soon to be. And when I did was I looked over, and he recognized who I was. I knew his name because he was in front of me, and he said it to the guy who was actually, we went to see a musical performance in my local area. So he sat next to me, irony enough, and so he recognized me, asked me who I was, and sure enough, an hour and a half after production, word chit-chatting away. But the thing was, his situation, like some other people I know who have an alternative name, have a good excuse for it. Job related. I have a lady friend of mine, she's got an ex-husband that stalks her, that kind of thing. And that's understandable. But if you're going to make a name for yourself, money for yourself, you're going to go off and try to brand yourself in such a way that you're going to be a public figure without being public, that shit's going to catch up to you. That's the funny part. And even the most notorious, the most prominent people of the left-hand path, if you really got to know them, would you really give them the same merit if you know what they did for a living? Would you give them the same merit if you know what they did as the living example of their paradigm? And that's where I get you. Because would you buy a book from a guy who works at 7-Eleven or some corner market, and you're giving this guy all the praise in the world, but what has he done to show for it except being a stock market guy? I met a guy in person who was a manager of a fireworks store. He showed me the store like it was a big accomplishment, and maybe for him it was. But I've met many friends who are managers of Circle K's. You know, what step up do you have? And the lesson that was learned by him the hard way was, if you're not working for yourself, you know when you're working for somebody else is when they fire you, which happened maybe like 6 months to a year later. So your achievement is now not in vain. But again, you moved up to a corporate ladder just to find out you can't get any higher, and they don't want you around no more. So we all learn our different lessons. But again, when it comes to merit, giving people the credit, if they applied what they've done for themselves and shown something of themselves, of that example, then they're worth the horn that they toot. One example, currently, one example I can give would be Michael Aquino. He walked the talk, talked the talk, has the resume to back it up, and he has a church or a temple that he can demonstrate he created. If anyone can actually have a comparison note or comparison marker, I would say it would be him, because there's very little deviation from the truth of what he did, what he said he did, and what he has done. Can you say the same for yourself? So when you ask Michael Aquino questions, he has the answers, the footnotes, the bibliographies, and the history to back his shit up. Do you? So that's where I say, do you ask questions for the people around you? People who call themselves funny names. Names with numbers in them. Names that are in Latin. Names that are demonic. And they're probably a bagger at a grocery store. But all hail to that person who talks a good talk. But do they really walk the good walk? Question everything, even the closest people around you. And when you don't, they'll bite you in the ass.